where it will quickly be replaced by a game even worse when it will seem much worse. Such a boy is forbidding so that players can let off steam all the accumulated hate negativity from a failed launch. Every studio is doing this, and it has come to the point that for the last 5 years, we have only seen disgusting games which are created to distract players from normal games. This time, it's the Lord of the Region, Prince Gollum, Bad Prince of Persia, met on his knees by the questmasters from Daedalic Entertainment. It was these people who very first entrusted with creating a big game with a big budget. But how big? The publisher pretended to allocate a large budget, and Daedalix pretended to create a game for 5 years. Such a mutually beneficial deal. As usual, it turned out to be a masterpiece, but you are not ashamed to advise your friends, which you do not have an empty not open world stuffy level quests drive to where you have already been, and here you will find what was already here. Terrible optimization and horse system requirements. You below 1050 Ti I will cry in pain. And it's not a fact that she will survive this meeting. Stupid div and blind enemies would not see you at point blank range when you jump stomp, swarm behind your backs and grom hurt, rendingly grace of graphics, terrible boardroom and monotony. A typical cocktail of modern games that do this as a lack of Russian voice acting and a story about a homeless man who is looking for a way to get into a house that he does not have. Gollum's charisma. For a game about epic heroes of Middle-earth, the most slippery and wild character Gollum was chosen. Only your dad can be more boring, and even when he gets drunk, he knows of a couple of funny jokes about Ukrainians without negativity. Gollum is a dwarf, not yet as slow as Shevtsov, but already a couple of centimeters higher than Nikita. He found the evil ring and retrieved a power that his father never dreamed of. Oh stop, I took the wrong script. Yes, his suckers just won't think of such a thing. Terry seemed to be some kind of team with a dragon, and not with a dragon we are in 2023. Like if you also think that Tyr is no more ideal hero when an evil dwarf who speaks like a typical streamer for a hype game. As a whole game we crawl along the same brown corridors straight as a stick. It is impossible to get lost in them, even if you are blindly dive and jump. 5 years of shame. Let's start with the main thing. The game was made for 5 years, but the feeling that all these 5 years were really just saving money and pretending to do something is such a standard approach for the production of fashionable games in 2023. There are a ton of bugs in the game, the necessary items are not highlighted, disappear enemies themselves fall off cliffs, you try to climb to the edge of the wall, it turned out it's not the edge, but just some joker pretending that it was the edge, to pull you and tighten the passage. They say that after the prologue, there is already real meat, so it is only this prologue lasts 4 hours. The whole action consists of one button, you sneak up from behind like a rat and strangle a sucker. It turns out a typical Vitality Astralis from CSGO, the magic of OG to the masses. On the graphic too, they were nobly divorced. The optimal computer for this novelty with graphics from 2005 will cost you a measly $30,500. But it won't be too easy if, even with such a budget computer, the game went to a constant 60 FPS without lagging, constant freezes and drawdowns of up to 20 frames. It would seem, but in dynamic sense, this is accessible. Well, we're not even here. The question is, what is so difficult to draw? Bald spot? In principle, it is easy to forgive. There are thousands of objects in the game that are difficult to load. For example, the walls and the floor. Modern video cards simply cannot cope with such a difficult task. This is a huge plus. The game was made to grow into the future, hoping fun in 20 years we will already invent supercomputers that will cope with such a wrong gen. Cheating on $70. When spread from the price tag, it's hard to believe that today there are people who feel sorry. $70 for a game that is played in less than 3,000 hours. Guys, Valve who like still with a taste of sleeping pills, this is still the optimal price. Take a look at the recent Zelda, which the dealers are publishing for $120. This is about $120 more than the cost of the games, which was created on the knees of Malaysian students, as they are proudly called our very outsiders. If the same craftsman made Gollum, the public would have no complaints at all. Double standards? Nintendo will forget toughness, but not Daedalics. Let's start with the most interesting thing. How are things with the plot? At the beginning, we find the Ring of Power when we lost it, and when we find it again, but at the end, when the credits roll, the plot this time came out much richer than in the Shadows of Middle-earth 9 years ago. It's not that bad. What I liked in the game was the music. They forgot to add it to the game. The last chicks were spent on working out the physics of Gollum's underpants, so there wasn't enough money for music. It seems that there are some urges from something musical, but they pass quickly. The creators wanted nothing to distract you from the exciting gameplay. After all, what could be more interesting when crawling on walls, hiding in bushes, solving puzzles for the retarded distracting the enemy with a stone? It seems to me that he will reach the ends of the earth if you throw the stone in front of him. It's funny that the strongest army in the world has a kind of opponents who cannot be trusted to guard a sausage sandwich, not to mention an important thing on which all life in Middle-earth depends. To collect all the garbage under your feet and strangle some dodics from behind. It is to strangle, not to kill. We are not that kind of animals, so just imagine my dwarfs who went off the rails. I think they will come to life later after such craft hacks. In the game, all the Lord of the End interesting characters are applicated. They are not in the books, so they are simply applicated. But it would be somehow wrong to add them to this part. We have here just a small game for 50 million bucks, according to one of the most popular franchises in the world. Why be pity? Charismatic heroes will distract from the most delicious, and those hiding in the bushes with both the level of your teammates in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. It seems that some paragraph is looming on the horizon. Here is a section of Aragorn of Sauron. I have been confusing them all my life. He wants to enslave the whole Middle-earth and do it very creatively. He wants to cheat the elves, inoculated all hobbits with poison, and divide the dwarves and orcs so that they need and hydrate each other while fewer resources go to the construction of superquest soldiers for a Sovereign special operation in the southern capital of Middle-earth. Yes, I understand we have never seen such a plot in games before. I hope we won't see it again. A masterpiece of Zaychetli. Personally, it's not clear to me why this game was so hard. After all, 3 points out of 10 is a serious application. I think everything is in the dance of the game. Terry is no staging in it. If we wander from one empty location to another, of course, it's a lot of fun, but Terry is no sense of an epic path and adventures. Typical morning of an e-fight after drinking in search of his dead. Voice note. There are some unique moments missing. There are escapes from big monsters, some boss fights. After all, what is in the game looks like huge, not a serious fight. And they also say that games inculcated violence. Have you seen it at all? The game needs a chase scene where everything collapses and you need to quickly escape. It can be seen what this in the first big game of developers, and they just don't know what to add to it to be cool. Therefore, they do not add anything. I do videos according to the same theme. The question arose, why are we playing only for Gollum? He's stuffy and uninteresting. Imagine a modern buzzer who constantly sides in Fortnite and begs for money for a new physics from Kanye West. And when you don't give him, he just hisses and says, my darling. Like how interesting it is to watch Touch at 9 o'clock, when you can go outside and see everything the same but leave. I understand that the game was just made for modern use, to whom such a hero is closer than any other. Yes, the era of strong characters has passed, on whom everyone would be equal. When I was little, my authority was vast, such an energetic psychopath, calculating and dangerous. The sight of his heart stopped, his knees shook, and one sexual organ rose. And will you have your device rise looking at this one here? Well, if you are a subscriber of Retrograde, then quite, but for normal, I'm not sure. You know what would be cool? If I were shooting good videos are and not hype games. The problem with the game is not that it is problematic, but that stealth is just something. You can swarm right behind Dodic's back and he won't hear anything at all. According to the same principle, they usually go on dates. There are too few opportunities for distraction in the game. Throw a stone, touch some shout sound, and that's it. There is an excitement, drive, adrenaline. The elbow is rubbing against the ceiling. At the moment when in some rotten Hitman of 2000. There was more fun, variety, and tools to stun dudes. But Roma, when the players will have to think, combine techniques, and press more than one button. Are very still players who can push more than one button? Good question. I personally not anymore, but everything is not lost for you 8. I would add in the game all sorts of interesting traps to bite stupid suckers into some traps and abysses. You say the game is stupid, but cherry puzzles in stupid games? Well, look at Zelda. The puzzles here are very simple. To twist something, turn it, or drive after the lost lever to the neighboring owned library. I wonder if in real life there are such a ship who will simply pull out the lever and put it 2 meters away from the mechanism. Here is the case when lifting the toilet lid is a more exciting quest than what it here. And why is what? I want riddles and puzzles like in some Portal. It will even be possible to steer up a good college. Man, a companion coup, my darling. According to the idea in our world, there is magic. There are magic rings and moving in space. Why the world we crawl the whole game and not use them? Well, the creators wanted to make a realistic game. and they did it perfectly. The game is as grey, dull, and primitive as real life at Hook. We were playing games to get away from it, and it can be easily fixed. What if we add several playable characters to the game, not binary Gollum number 1 and polysexual Gollum number 2? Maybe even switch between them during the game. For example, one Dodik is biting, another is solving a complex puzzle at this time about how and very to show a turn lever that is lying 2 meters away. The child is setting traps at this time, but it will give the game excitement and dynamics. The player would have seen the same thing from different faces and would not have been bored. The game would be diverse. It would be possible to make it so that one hero can do one action, another act. It will be possible to show the same events from several angles when the game will be much cooler. And so we have some kind of simulator of your deaths back to the next pub. I understand, but there is no need for more for modern players. Somebody comes from this factory, and in this mouth he becomes all sorts of quests, plots, not line utilities. He just wants to relax over a cup of antifreeze and some kind of non-stressful entertainment, maybe even watch the third season of Daddy's Daughters. And the funny thing is that I am such a daddy, but I'd rather go to CS 1.6, Kingpin or Blood 1970, one middle around here. It's easy to fall asleep in the game because it doesn't develop like that. Usually in games by the end you become powerful, and when you become even weaker and dead. It's just like in life. And they said Cherry is nothing new in the game, but what is this? Why not give the player a sense of progression? Why do we even have to go from point A to point B in 2023? What's the point? Daedalic, it's not enough for you in real life. I don't know, but yourself a subscription to a fitness club and spend kilometers on a treadmill to you. Why do people watch videos and play games? To have fun and not to choke yourself with a routine in your free time. The bottom line is that there are also very few links with the original in the game, but it's remove the Lord of the Rings from the title and nothing will change. The connection is only indirect. We do not see familiar characters and events, we hear about them from cutscene dialogues. And there are a lot of cutscenes and dialogues in-game. Every second character here talks like your grandmother. It is simply impossible to chat one up, and it would be fine if they told something interesting. How 3/7 drunk with a fool, how they went to Yalta, how they found a new vape in the trash, but when they say something glitched others. 11 Sauron had a good life, I still had a zucchini at a time. Or Aragorn is such a dodic and his sword and enlarged. I know a lecherous lady from the filthy swamps I came to hear then turned out to be a man. I think you understand. Damn, I am going to say such a strange thing, but if all this chatter could be combined into world chapters and let's up participate in them. Not to run back and forth for a freak, but for example to hang out with elves in some tavern to box hobbits' ears off, or for Sauron's assistants to clean his golden toilet bowl. Take Daedalic ideas from the next part. I'm not sure I give. What I want to say finally, I'm a big fan of Daedalic creativity. Tier Daedalic Deponia, which I can strengthen to the end for the 6th year, is an incredibly unique game with a very bantering plot and charismatic characters. If you want a video about it, then put your finger up and write a 5-word comment. If you don't know how to write, just draw. And when the feeling is as if you're a big publisher forced them to rivet some custom-made crap on the knee and even did not allocate money but saved it. And he made me do everything as he said. So it turned out to be a typical product I thought very was potential. I hope it will be better next time, but judging by the hype and big sales, we will never see new Lord of the Rings games. Let's hope at least for new mods on Skyrim, and when games like Gollum, it's better one known. Yes, there are interesting places developers are flirting with the topic of liminal spaces, which are now on the hype of others who only found out about them yesterday. Who doesn't know, it's like in the Simpsons episodes when Flanders walks down the corridors and a subscriber writes to him what his honest reviews on Zelda are crap because both his fathers play Zelda. The world of the game looks fragmently lifeless, which is a bit not typical of middle years, but commonplaces for residents of post-Soviet countries. Alright, Cherry are all sorts of battle all the time, disassembly, assembly, and Cherry, it's as if everyone is already so charged that they just walk back and forth and are looking for how to drive off themselves a game-scale combat. But we have already seen all tier shapes in other games, and for a new game for 80 hours I would like more new and not shoot from the other games. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel, this is the only one place where they will to truth. And if you want adventure, you'll better play the first Prince Persia of 87 and not this gum for brains. See you soon.